Here's the thing nobody tells you. The very things that you learned to survive, to get you through life, will end up suffocating you if you never change them, if you never grow and you never move on to become a better person. Hyperindependence may have gotten you through your childhood, your upbringing, but now it can isolate you as an adult. People pleasing may have kept the peace, but now you feel invisible. Emotional shutdown may have reduced conflict, but now it blocks intimacy. Control might have provided you with predictability, but now it causes anxiety. What does thriving require and feel like? And I've written some things that I feel thriving can feel like and require. Speaking gently but clearly, honoring your needs, delegating, receiving support, resting without guilt, trusting stability, choosing alignment over approval. Thriving might mean becoming softer, or it may mean for others that you're becoming more firm. It might mean becoming disciplined, or it might mean surrendering. This journey of figuring this out is different for everyone. It's personal, but there is one thing that is the same for all of us. Thriving requires alignment, not perfection, not having to prove yourself, just alignment. If you're listening to this podcast, you no longer want to be who you once were. So you're not who you once were, and you're not exactly who you are to become just yet. So you'll feel a little inconsistent. Sometimes you may relapse into old habits. Sometimes you'll even doubt yourself and if this journey is something that you want to continue. And that's okay. That's normal. Transformation is not a straight line. It goes up, down, sideways, spirals at times. But have grace with yourself. The fact that you are working on yourself speaks volumes, because a lot of people stay in survival mode. They stay who they are, or who they think that they are, but it's truly not who they're meant to be. It's who they learned to be. Welcome back to Healing Momma Podcast. I'm your host, Val, aka Healing Momma. And if you found me today and this is your first time joining, listening, I appreciate you. I'm so grateful that you stopped by. And to all of those that have been on this journey with me from day one, I am also glad that you guys are still here with me. And I send you so much love, and I'm so grateful for you all. In this space, I want to remind everyone that this is a space that I've created to where we can heal, we can have grace with ourselves, we can understand that we're learning, we're growing, and it's a space where we can remember that we are allowed to become and unbecome. So I didn't have this episode planned out. It was something that I came across a quote and I was like, okay, this is the episode that I want to talk about this week, and this is the topic, and it really was something that weighed heavy on me. So we'll kick it off with the quote as always. You become who you needed to become in order to survive. Now it's time to become who you need to become in order to thrive. That part right there. And so I feel like there's layers to this, right? Honoring the survivor that we had to be. So you before the healing, you before the boundaries, you before your expansion of your mindset, you before we learn that we can step into a new identity. And we have to honor that version of you. We have to honor the version of you that got you through the traumas, the pain, the heartache, the grief. Sometimes this version was a version of you that stayed quiet. Sometimes it was the people pleaser. Sometimes it was a version of you that was overworked, underappreciated, the version of you that shut down emotionally, the version of you that had to be hyper independent and carry everything on your own. You weren't weak. You were adapting. You were doing what you had to do in that moment. And I feel like it's easy to shame ourselves for who we were when we had to survive. You can look back and it's easy to say, well, why was I like that? Why did I make this choice? Why was I with that person? Why did I stay in that job, in that relationship, whatever the case is? But when you're in survival mode, that doesn't allow you the space, the room to make decisions as if you were thriving. It's constant, it's hurried, it's fast paced. It only allows you the opportunity to do what feels safe at the time. And safe doesn't always mean healthy. It just means it's familiar. It's something that you have to do just to get you by. So if you grew up in a chaotic household, your nervous system only knows chaos. It learned chaos. If you grew up walking on eggshells, your nervous system learned to scan the room, feel for people's energies, check things out, be on edge. If love for you was always inconsistent and conditional, then you learned to overgive of yourself. If you grew up feeling unheard, then you learned to shrink and you assumed that your voice didn't matter. You became who you needed to become to make it through. And that version of you deserves grace, deserves gratitude, not criticism. So I want you to take a moment and just think about that version of you, who you had to learn to become based on your circumstances, your situations, your upbringing. Take a moment and reflect. Who is that person? Can you see her or him? What do they look like? Learn to have grace with that little version of you. Love, acceptance, everything that you didn't get in your upbringing, you can reparent yourself and rewire your brain and parent that little version of you just the way that you needed to be parented. Here's the thing nobody tells you. The very things that you learned to survive, to get you through life, will end up suffocating you if you never change them, if you never grow and you never move on to become a better person. Hyperindependence may have gotten you through your childhood, your upbringing, but now it can isolate you as an adult. People pleasing may have kept the peace, but now you feel invisible. Emotional shutdown may have reduced conflict, but now it blocks intimacy. Control might have provided you with predictability, but now it causes anxiety. So think of it like this: survival mode is a cage. It's a cage that's entrapped you into everything that you had to do to survive, but you want to thrive, and you can't do that in this little box. Thriving requires risks. Thriving requires vulnerability, accountability, acceptance, grace, love, compassion, all for yourself. Thriving requires that you allow yourself to be seen. Thriving requires rest, and thriving requires you to allow yourself to receive. Sometimes that feels unsafe when your body and your nervous system is wired for survival mode. So if you're feeling stuck right now, if you're feeling like, hey, Val, I've outgrown this life, I've outgrown my reactions to things, my situation, but I don't know how to step into new ones, that's not failure. The fact that you can see that is evolution. You're evolving into this new person who no longer wants to settle, who no longer wants to survive, but they believe that they are fully capable of thriving and allowing themselves to thrive. So in order to do this, you have to release yourself from that cage. You have to release yourself from that mindset, from that set nervous system that kept you alive for so long, but not thriving, releasing that identity that protected you at that moment. And sometimes that can feel like grief because you're learning to say goodbye to old patterns, old ways, old things. And in a sense, what kept you alive for so long, and releasing that part of you, so it can feel sad and it can feel overwhelming and confusing and you can feel lost because unhealthy versions of ourselves, even at times, can feel familiar. We held on to it for so long because that is what we knew how to do. That is what we had to do. And thriving doesn't seem familiar. And when you think about it, things that feel unfamiliar don't feel safe. But I promise you, growth is just unfamiliar safety. A healthy relationship can feel boring. The calm seasons can feel weird. Stability can feel temporary. And I use air quotes because all of those N words, that's a feeling. That's a fear because your body is still waiting for the storm. It's waiting for the, okay, this isn't supposed to be. My life's supposed to be chaotic. It's supposed to be crazy. It's supposed to be depression, sadness, anger, grief, all of these things, everything but good. But maybe there isn't a storm just waiting for you around the corner. What if it's sunshine, butterflies, rainbows, peace? And peace doesn't have to be earned through exhaustion anymore. So if surviving required self-abandonment, silence, overfunctioning, emotional guarding, hyper awareness, constant productivity, what does thriving require and feel like? And I've written some things that I feel thriving can feel like and require: speaking gently but clearly, honoring your needs, delegating, receiving support, resting without guilt, trusting stability, choosing alignment over approval. Thriving might mean becoming softer, or it may mean for others that you're becoming more firm. It might mean becoming disciplined, or it might mean surrendering. This journey of figuring this out It's different for everyone. It's personal. But there is one thing that is the same for all of us. Thriving requires alignment, not perfection, not having to prove yourself, just alignment. You can't think yourself out of survival mode. You have to teach your nervous system, your mind, your body, your soul that you're safe. Sometimes that means slowing down. Sometimes that means breathing. Sometimes that means pausing before reacting. At times it can mean sitting in discomfort and allowing yourself to feel those emotions. So when you set a boundary and your mind starts to feel guilty, that is your survival identity panicking. When you rest and you start to feel lazy, that's your survival identity trying to grip onto control. When you ask for help and you feel weak, that's your survival identity trying to protect you. That one was a huge one for me. Sometimes still is, because it was always hard for me to ask for help. It was always hard for me to rely on others because I felt like I was asking too much. But thriving requires new evidence. Evidence where you can say no and still feel loved, still be loved, where you can rest and still be worthy. You can receive and still be strong. You can be soft and still yet powerful. So right now we're in this season, right? We're in this season of going from surviving to thriving, and it can feel messy. It can feel uncomfortable. It can feel chaotic. Let's be real. If you're listening to this podcast, you no longer want to be who you once were. So you're not who you once were, and you're not exactly who you are to become just yet. So you'll feel a little inconsistent. Sometimes you may relapse into old habits. Sometimes you'll even doubt yourself and if this journey is something that you want to continue. And that's okay. That's normal. Transformation is not a straight line. It goes up, down, sideways, spirals at times. But have grace with yourself. The fact that you are working on yourself speaks volumes, because a lot of people stay in survival mode. They stay who they are, or who they think that they are, but it's truly not who they're meant to be. It's who they learned to be. And start to watch the changes that take place. You'll start to see that situations that arise slowly, there's little changes and differences into the newer healed version of you, to the reparented version of you, to the reset nervous system version of you. You handle it a little differently each and every time. So right now I want you to just take a deep breath. And I want you to release the shame that you have felt, the shame that you felt for who you had to become, because you did what you had to do. But now ask yourself, who do I need to become in order to thrive? Not to impress, not to survive, not to prove, but to thrive. Maybe you're softer, maybe you're braver, maybe you're no longer a people pleaser, maybe you're setting boundaries, maybe it's learning to have grace with yourself, maybe speaking up, maybe leaving, maybe staying. But this new version of you, she's aligning. You are allowed to become her. And I want you to do me a favor. If today one thing from this episode resonated with you, journal this prompt for me. The version of me that survived was blank. The version of me that is going to thrive is blank. Fill that in. Be honest with yourself. Be gentle. Be curious. And I would love to hear what that old version of you is to the new version. Email me, DM me, comment. Secondly, if this episode spoke to you, please share this episode with someone and challenge them to step out of survival and into a life where they're thriving. Screenshot this post, share it, tag me in it, send it to your friend, leave a review for the podcast, and please make sure that you subscribe and follow. I am on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartMusic, and you can follow me across all socials at Healing Momma Podcast, except for TikTok, where you can find me at Healing Momma Pod. I send you guys so much love, peace, joy, happiness. I hope you have an amazing weekend. Thank you again for taking the time to join me. And until next time, I hope you guys have a great one. Bye, guys.